For people who say that God doesn't exist, or God doesn't talk to them, or God doesn't give them proof of his existence, it's because they haven't learned to walk in the Spirit. I'm not quite sure why that is. I know that when I wasn't walking in the Spirit, it was because I had been blinded by materialism to the point where I wanted to achieve all of the pinnacles of a materialistic world, of the materialistic world that we live in. And so when I was walking in the flesh, there was no room for God. There was literally no room for God. Okay? Because God walks in the spirit. God walks um, in the subtle, refined realm. So when you're into gross materialism, God is not going to reveal himself to you. He doesn't have to. God doesn't owe you that. I hear a lot of people who want to argue against the existence of God, saying, well, God doesn't show himself to me, so God doesn't exist. It's your responsibility to learn how to walk in the spirit. It's your responsibility to not be deceived by this world of materialism. It's your responsibility to realize that in this world, in this corrupt world, your flesh ages and you die. It's your responsibility to realize this world is nowhere near perfection. It is not perfection. This is not the best of all possible worlds. And once you realize that, it's your responsibility to then seek God, seek what else there is, and realize that this was created by a far more perfect being that doesn't exist the way we exist. Just because something doesn't exist the way you exist here and now doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, period. And it's your responsibility to look into the subtle way in which things occur, the subtle way, and also the subtle way in which you're being deceived to believe that materialism is all there is. Because in talking to people in my daily life, I mean, when people ask about me, they want to know, you know, where I work. They want to know how much money you make. They want to put you on a materialistic scale. That's all that they think about. That's all that they're able to process. That's all that they're able to understand. And it's so sad because this world is so temporary. Your riches, your achievements, your materialistic achievements are so temporary. But people have made that their reality, and they've limited themselves. And in limiting themselves, they think that they can also limit reality, and you can't do that. You can't limit God. You can't limit reality because you've refused to go outside of your programming and realize that there's more to reality than materialism. And you refuse to get off of this ball in the middle of nowhere and try to look into the subtle realms for what's going on outside of this reality, or this segment of reality. And that's not God's fault. I mean, of course there's a clever deception going on. Satan has fooled the entire world, but it's your responsibility to look past that. It's your responsibility to realize something's not right. Because if you've made this your home, if you're waddling in filth and you've made this your home, then you don't belong in heaven. You don't belong in a better place, because this is the best of all worlds. And no perfect being is going to allow you to bring your perception of what the best of all worlds would be into his perfect realm. So it's like you have to refine yourself. You have to pull yourself out of this. And the only way you can do that is by asking for the help of Jesus, asking for a higher power to come into you and help you to see past the deception. Because all your works here, the things that you do here, are temporary, but God is eternal. And if God comes into you, when the eternal comes into you, it changes you, it refines you, it helps you. But no matter how well you take care of your body here, no matter how many deeds you do, the flesh will die. It will die. It's not meant to last. And you wouldn't want to be in this state indefinitely. You wouldn't want to. You think you would. Some people think they would, but you wouldn't want to. You want to refine yourself so that you're suitable for a better existence, for a more pure existence, for a less corrupt existence. And it's your responsibility to seek God out, because there are plenty of people who had personal experiences with Jesus. And if you're philosophical, I suggest reading Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard talks about a subjective rather than an objective relationship with God. If you go to church all your life and all you do is study the Bible, you're not going to find God that way. You have to ask God to come into your heart, and He will. And then you'll have a subjective relationship with God, and you will know. You won't have to argue it. You will know. You will know that God is real, because He will come to you and He'll speak to you and He'll speak through you and He'll speak through other people to you if He knows that you're His child, if He knows that you're sincerely seeking the refined reality. Um, He'll come into you, because God wants to help you, but God also wants you to have free will. So you have the free will to waddle in filth and call this reality the best of all worlds. You have that free will, but God's not going to allow you to bring that corrupt thinking into a more refined reality. And that's why God doesn't just reveal Himself. The demons know that God exists. They know, and they chose evil. So you have the freedom to ask God to come into your life and show you those refined realms. And if not, then the devil will come into you and convince you that materialism is all that there is. And all that you should seek is that which does not last. So think about that. Think about whether you want to put your faith in things that don't last, or if you want to allow the eternal to come into you and refine you so that you're suitable for eternity.